Welcome back to The Truth About Sex. Every year, some 300 people are killed and 18,000 are injured by drivers backing up their cars, usually in driveways or parking lots. There's a simple way to prevent some of these accidents. We could back into parking spaces so that we don't have to back out later. It's quicker, easier, and safer to pull straight out than to back out. There was an interesting study done recently, and they found that 88% of people in China, when parking their cars, back in. Only 6% of people in the United States back in when parking. There's research suggesting that the way we park might have implications for our country's economic productivity. The professor that conducted the research concluded by saying, because back-in parking takes more time and effort than head-in parking, people that take the trouble to back in demonstrate the ability to delay gratification. They want to invest more time and effort now so they can enjoy the fruits of their labor later. They demonstrate a culture of long-term orientation. Delayed gratification can be described as the ability to do the hard thing first to get the payoff later. We all know that if you want to be in great physical shape, you have to exercise even when you don't want to, and you can't eat whatever you want whenever you want. We know to get an education, we have to deny ourselves some things we might want temporarily to devote ourselves to studying. If you want to buy a home, you have to save. I would challenge you to try and think of one thing that gives you long-term happiness that is achieved with instant gratification. I bet you can't name one. I believe what we all want more than sex is intimacy. Intimacy is defined as a close, familiar, or loving personal relationship with another person or group. Because our desire for a mate and/or sex is so strong, too often I'll see people developing amazing, intimate, life-giving relationships in CityFam and then trade them for a non-life-giving physical relationship with another person. Google defines a helpmate as a helpful companion or partner, especially one's husband or wife. How many times have you seen people in relationships and one or both spouses weren't all that helpful to the other? How many of us have been there ourselves? I believe to have a happy life, you need to create a happy home. And a happy relationship can play a big part of that. Life is hard, and if you're going to reach your full potential, you need a helpmate. That cheerleader, that support system, that set of gifts to complement the gifts that you have. A helpmate will pick up slack where you're lacking and vice versa, so there's an even balance in each person's strengths and weaknesses. To find a helpmate, that's someone that you connect with on a deep level, takes time. It requires patience and discipline. If you add sex into the mix, it will only cloud your judgment, whether there's a deep connection or if it's just your flesh crying out for what it wants. One of the main points I'm attempting to drive home through the book is that waiting is a selfish decision, but in a good way. It forces you to focus on yourself. It's intelligent. I think everyone wants to be happy long term. It's just that many of us don't know how to achieve it. So many people get hung up on the word marriage and say things like, I never want to get married, or I never want to get married again. Marriage is a great tool if used correctly, not only in testing the motives of a person that we might be dating, but also testing ourselves. Many of you watching this, if you're not waiting already, are going to see value in it, and you're going to get excited and you're going to commit to doing it. And one of the most important things you'll do if you plan to be successful is set good boundaries. Boundaries are like diets. They're easy to set, but they're difficult to maintain. Boundaries require discipline. In 2000, I committed myself to waiting to have sex until marriage. I went from being the most promiscuous person I knew to being abstinent for the next 6 years, and it required a lot of discipline. But sadly, after 6 years of sheltering myself, I wanted to give myself some freedom again and have a more active social life. What I hadn't done in those 6 years was establish some healthy boundaries so I could have this freedom. I think part of it was that I thought I was stronger than I really was, or maybe it was because I hadn't experienced the pain of failure yet and I didn't realize how much it would hurt me. Needless to say, what started out with the best intentions wound up devastating my life for the next 5 years because I didn't set and keep good boundaries. I heard the saying, no boundaries equals no self-esteem, and it's true. I know because this was me. However, when you're able to keep and set strong boundaries, it produces a pride in oneself. The boundaries you keep are indicative of how little or how much you respect yourself. Boundaries are your friend. Decide in advance what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with when it comes to dating, and know those boundaries well. They should roll off your tongue if anyone asks. Keeping them is going to require a lot of work. This is why it's of the utmost importance to do everything in your power to make sure you succeed. And I recommend the following. First, establish your why. Take some time to think about why you want to wait. Get really clear about it and then write it down and think about it all the time. I call this living intentionally or beginning with the end in mind. For you, it might be wanting to get married, religious reasons, or just avoid STDs. Whatever your reason, know it and remind yourself of it daily. I had a life coach help me write mine down in a vision statement that I read every morning. I also start each day visualizing, imagining as vividly as possible what my life will be like when I reach my goals, and that excites me, and it makes doing the work necessary to get there that much easier. The second thing is remove all obstacles. I see so many people that say they want to wait, but they don't change anything. Listen, trying harder won't get you there. Cut off everything and everyone that would prevent you from success. This might mean people you hang out with, places you go, and things you do. I quit drinking 6 years ago because when I drink, I like to hook up, so it had to go. This would also include porn. Don't be stupid. A thought leads to an action. You can't feed yourself something like that sexual if you're trying to avoid sex and expect it not to come back on you. You have to starve that animal to death if you plan to succeed. Third, establish boundaries. Again, this is the most important thing you'll do. Be very honest with yourself what is and isn't acceptable when it comes to dating. So many people want to play with fire, and most of the time they get burned, and the consequences are the same as if they hadn't even tried. Good intentions don't mean jack. Know your triggers, know what causes you to go down a path that would lead you to failure, then set your boundaries up before you get to that place. Trying to decide where your boundaries are when you're already horizontal is a bad idea. Fourth, communicate those boundaries up front. Do not wait until you're already dating someone to tell them your stance on sex. This doesn't have to be a long conversation, but telling someone up front that you're not interested in sex is the quickest way to find out if they really like you. If they aren't supportive, then what's the point of even wasting your time going on a date? Just keep it moving. Fifth, get an accountability partner. Find a friend to share your commitment with who will support your decision. I don't mean your bar hopping friend who will ask you, why in the hell would you do that? You want a friend who will be supportive, that you can be accountable to. Hopefully they will even do it with you if they haven't already done it themselves. Then be completely honest with that person. Not wanting to tell on yourself or let them down if you were to make a mistake will go a long way to keep you out of trouble. Be authentic. Freedom comes from authenticity. Last, surround yourself with like-minded people. Speaking from personal experience, it doesn't matter how determined you are. If you don't have good people around you to do life with, you won't make it. You cannot do it alone. I recommend finding a good faith community, and if that's not your thing, check out City Fam. We like to have fun, but we also believe in living life with no regrets. That means not being a source of regret for ourselves or for others. And if you are having sex without commitment, then guess what? There's a good chance that at least one of you will regret it. In the best-selling book, Think and Grow Rich, author Napoleon Hill states that sexual desire is the strongest of all human desire. He writes that it's a well-known fact that many great people throughout history, including inventors, leaders, and people of notable achievement across all spectrums, use their sex drive as fuel. He calls it sex transmutation, channeling sexual energy from purely physical expression to some other nature. I've redirected all the energy I previously used chasing the opposite sex and instead have used it for other purposes also. Starting a nonprofit, cultivating an amazing group of friends, reading more books than I ever have before. I went on multiple relief trips to third world countries, became an active leader at my church, and became very involved in serving my community. I rechanneled all that sexual energy to do the hard work on myself to have the life that I wanted. So take the time off to invest in yourself so you can become the kind of person that the one you want to be with would want. Figure out what you're passionate about and start pursuing it. This will lead you to your purpose. When you figure out what you're here for and you find the perfect person to come alongside you to help you do it, then you will have stepped into your destiny. That's all for this week. I hope you are enjoying meeting with your group and building some great friendships. Enjoy your discussion time, and I will see you next time for the final week of The Truth About Sex.